Death be not proud.
What's up, you bundles of sticks? Think about it. Holy Diver here, and today I am going to do another army review. I know what you're thinking. Danger, Will Wheaton. Danger, Will Wheaton. Soy boy alert. Soy boy alert. Holy Diver's doing another army review. This does not compute. He might question the rules committee. He might do this. I'm going to do a lot of things. Questioning the rules committee is always one of them.
Get dressed in the morning, I'm triggered. I take a shower, I'm triggered. I get in the car, I'm triggered.
Not to mention, I don't suck Kings of War Fanatics admin dick at any given time during this video. As a matter of fact, the soy boys, the admins, and the tournament dinks, they can all go suck my way too big white guy dick. So, let's get into this. Undead as a whole is one of my favorite factions, so, you know, I mean, they're very, very, very close, near and dear to my heart, second to my orcs, so I've always had a lot of Undead laying around. As a matter of fact, I like Undead so much that I actually did a completely separate army just for Warhammer Fantasy 7th Edition. Not that it matters now, but it's something that I wanted. And that's a huge problem we've got today. We've got a lot of people who don't do projects for something that they wanted. And it shows deeply. It really does show when people do stuff that... I'm going to be dusting some of these guys off as I go along. But when they don't build something... Whereas like today, I think a lot of people build armies for a specific tournament. When I think about that guy who had a tournament list with 7 hordes of rabble for chaff, if you paint 210 goblins and you go by the preferred model count and you put them on horde trays and you send them forward, in my opinion, with an army like that, you kind of deserve to win, in my opinion, because that shows a merit-based dedication that you don't see a lot today. It's the same thing with a lot of armies. You know, if you're willing to do X and you win a tournament because of it, no one saw it coming. You know, like the same guy who brought a shit ton of slave orcs in his Abyssal Dwarf army. It was just slave orcs, and then he had, what do you call it? A bunch of, decimators. You know, you kind of deserve to win because that's thinking outside the box. But, you know, I mean, I think he had like 150 slave orcs and then 3 hordes of decimators. It wasn't bad. But, you know, I mean, everybody just kind of thinks about what do I do for the next tournament. And I always hope that Kings of War doesn't become that way, even though it is, because, you know, the rules committee and 10 people who might play at 30 people who might play at a Masters tournament really do dictate where the rest of this game goes. Whereas I really think that this game needs to step off the tournament dick, you know, go completely off of the pool of that, and bring it back down to a much more casual basis, because collecting a mass fantasy battle army takes time. It takes time. You just don't decide that you're going to paint 210 miniatures unless you have some kind of righteous indignation to start off with already. So, with that aside, let's kind of get into this. You know, I've been looking over the old roster for 2nd edition. Yes, I am comparing them to their old book. So if you don't like that either, you can just turn me off now and you shove that up your butt. Let's see. We are going to start kind of at the beginning here. I did do some notes. And the first thing I noticed was the nerf on the zombies. Yes, the zombies got cheaper, and we're going to be beginning with that. So we come to the zombies, and this is like one of my favorite units because, you know, this has been a huge seller for Mantic and everything, and these guys... really good looking models, every single one of them. The zombies, they took a nerf. The Legion no longer has 40 attacks like it used to, and I think that they should have stayed that way. The fact that you had 40 attacks that were going to hit on 5s, it was a reliable brick that would deal out the damage, especially when supported by a Bane chant, or if it had... I usually ran that with the Brew of Sharpness with the +1 to hit, so that I would be able to land a lot of those hits and then hurt something. And at 30 attacks, nerve 28, defense 2 now, This can be one. Just bringing one of those isn't enough. That's something that can be shot off of the table relatively quickly. And because the problem with Defense 2 units, anything that you hit and then wound, you get to keep those wounds. You will keep, I'm going to say 90% of those wounds, even if you've got heal backing that up. Whereas with most shooting, there was always a chance. There was always a chance somebody would roll that 2 on a lightning bolt, and that 1 on a lightning bolt, or those 2s and 1s on a fireball, and it just kind of muted it just a little bit. But Defense 2, everything's hitting you, and most everything is going to wound you, and they're going to keep a lot of that. And then when they hit it in close combat, even at nerf 28, they're going to go away. I think that the nerf completely fucking stupid, and it's one of those conscious decisions that they make. It's one of those conscious decisions that they make, because you'll take a unit like Ogre Siegebreakers, who got better. They're now Defense 5, they still have big shield, and they went down 10 points. Which tells me that there's someone making these decisions based on what? Based on what? So I never thought they were too overpowered at all, and if you did, you're a fucking moron. So the nerf on the Zombie Legion, I didn't think it needed to be there. I do like the 115 point Horde. That does provide for some spamability and everything, but again, they've given this army so much, yet everything is hyper specialized. And if you're a finesse player, which I'm not really good at finesse playing, it's there aren't a lot of things that you can take, because a lot of it has shambling, so you can't march. And if you're against an army that does have some shooting and decent movement, you're going to be at a very big disadvantage, especially being at Defense 2. If you run, I can see this now. Just a troop of storm cavalry from the elves coming into the line. Oh look, we're elite. Oh look, I get to reroll one because that unit has the Sword of Might, and that'll be like and they keep 9 damage on your zombies just in the first turn, and that's like a little bomb exploding on the unit. They tone the nerve down on that. Oh, well, they didn't tone the nerve down. That's on the skeletons, sorry. So the skeletons, they all lost a point of nerve for the Horde. Phalanx did get better. So I'll just go into the skeletons now. Phalanx did get better if you're cavalry or flying or monstrous cavalry. You do hit at a -1, unless you're chariots, of course, which don't lose anything to the Phalanx anymore, I think. In any case, I think that you're paying a premium for those spears. I mean, this is again them being stingy with the rules. Oh, they can go to defense. We can put the Ogre Siegebreakers at Defense 5. We'll take away the point of Thunderous. So they're still going to wreck your face, even though they're just Crushing Strength 2, and they've got big shield. We'll take all of that away. But and we'll pick and choose what we want to do with the certain units. Like, I don't understand why the Death Pack got all these special rules. This is what happens when they make conscious decisions. It got Leech Life 2, don't know why. It got Nimble, Stealthy, and Vicious. Now this does help, because that is one of the things that they're lacking, and you can take 3 troops of this. They've got 12 attacks. You can't really shoot them off the table. So this was something that was geared towards tournament play for your undead. It's very obvious with that. Oh, they're stealthy. Oh, they're stealthy. That would hurt in shooting when you're trying to get rid of some useless chaff. Then they can actually hit a character and potentially kill it, or they can get into a unit and potentially rake up some damage on a lucky roll. Because, 12 attacks is nothing to turn your nose at. And again, it's got all those special rules. It's got Vicious for nothing. It's got Vicious for nothing. So, again, with the zombies, they lost, the Legion lost its viability, in my opinion. Whereas it used to be very viable with 40 attacks. Now it's just got 30. Give it back the attacks, because you're already hitting on 5s. It's like Goblin Spitters. Why are they melee 6? Why the hell are they melee 6? oh, you just don't know what you're talking about, holy diver. Most of the time, it doesn't make a difference. Melee 6, I mean, you might as well just kiss that ass goodbye because most things are going to own that. You're going to have a character go into that unit and he's going to solo it. I've seen it happen. A Ghoulgast would probably solo an entire regiment of Goblin Spitters because they can't hit anything, So you with 40 attacks, though, hitting on 5s, you could hit shit. It was a legitimate threat. So I think that needs to go back the way it was. Anybody who says otherwise, you're fucking stupid. Suck my dick. So that's enough on the zombies. There are a lot of synergies now that are with the zombies and everything. While we're on the subject of zombies, we'll just touch on zombie trolls. Zombie trolls did get the defense point that they needed. I think that they need, another special rule to kind of help them out. They are shambling, they do hit on 4s, they are crushing strength 2. I really think, like all trolls, they should have the regeneration at 190 points, just like, fuck you, it's not that broken, so what if they're fearless? It's still 17, you can kill these things. Oh, and then you're going to try to tell me that they'll never die, but that's a viable option because, it's a synergy that works with heal. You can bring an all zombie troll army, but somebody's going to figure out a way to beat it. If that's all there is, you're going to fill up on that very quickly. You also have an army that isn't that mobile, so it can be outmaneuvered. It's not hard because even if you do have 3, even an all troll army, you're still going to have to bring support characters to move them around on shambling. You're still going to have to bring an adequate amount of chaff, and those are something. 4 hordes of those is 760 points. But if I was doing the all zombie army, this is what I've kind of put together for this. I'm bringing 4 hordes of zombies, 4 hordes of zombie trolls, 2 Gorblights. I do like Cloak of Darkness. That is a synergy that kind of just works every turn. So I've got a Gorblight, they have 17 nerve, and their defense 5. It's just like some more mush for you to pound on, and every turn, you're taking an extra point of damage. Nothing you can do about it. Boom, so you got 2 units just took it. That could tip the balance. But the problem with the all-zombie army, again, you've got to, at 2250 or 2000, you've got to have the 3 support characters, and you've got to at least have your 2 sources of inspiring, and necromancers aren't inspiring. For 20 points, they give zombies the vicious aura. Anything with a zombie keyword, they get the vicious aura. There is some semblance of a synergy here, very similar to the goblins, who have the Eye in the Sky special rule for their war machines with the wing get. So you've got that, and then this is just kind of the list that I put together just in my head, spur of the moment. 2 Gorblights, 1 Lich King, Banechant, Heal, Surge, and then 1 Necromancer, Zombie Aura, Surge, and Banechant. The other one with the Inspiring Talisman, he's got Surge, Heal 3, and the Banechant. Not to mention 2 Balefire Catapults. They kind of got a little bit better. They've got 4, that would be 2 of them with 4 attacks apiece, and they're always going to hit on 5. So you're bound to come up with something. You're bound to have a softening, which would help when they come in range of the Gorblights, because this is an army that legitimately sticks together, and you have to deploy it that way. And with Surge, you might be able to keep things away. But I went back and forth on the Balefire Catapults between the Death Pack and everything. I think that, I could just use the zombie hordes as chaff and offense. There's 4 of them. That's still a lot of wounds in the field. But again, defense 2, whatever they put on you is going to stick. And you're not going to be able to heal them fast enough. And your trolls might have a few bad rounds of combat. So I'm sure I'm missing something here. But I'm just going to leave that at that. And the magic items for this, you're going to bring the Conjurer's Staff, because rerolling on a Banechant, rerolling on a heal, pretty useful with one of your wizards, and then the Fire Oil on one of the units of trolls, just in case you come into other trolls. Basically, it's a useful item. I kind of like it. So that's where I'm at with zombies and the whole zombie kind of thing that they've got there. We'll move on to the skeletons just briefly. Skeletal archers, still melee 6. Don't understand the melee 6. Again, total bullshit, especially if they're a regular now. I mean, I wouldn't mind loading up on skeletal archers if they did have the 5+ in melee. It's not going to make them any broken. It's not going to change the game. If you don't like what I just said, again, suck my dick. I mean, what are you going to do? Melee 6 skeleton horde, it does shoot. It hits on 5s, but again, all you have is the keyword skeleton. And the problem I have with skeletons is they don't have anything that helps them out. They don't have anything that helps them out. Now, like, I can understand if remnants, skeletons, and skeletal archers had, like, weapons that mark you for death, so every 6 that they roll to hit you, that generates an additional attack, but somebody would probably tell me that's broken, whereas I don't think it's that broken. It's just that if you have a lucky turn and you happen to get a couple of you happen to get like 5 6s out of 20 attacks, and then you roll 6 more attacks, and then 2 more of those hit, it's just you don't have a bonus for skeletons. Again, they lost that extra point of nerve on the hordes, and you're paying that 175 point for premium for the phalanx, whereas I don't think skeleton spearmen should be anywhere close to the 170 point range. This should be about 155 points or 150 points, because again, you're dealing with something that's slow, you can kill it relatively easy, and it's like, oh, I'm going to march my trolls up. And my trolls stomp your face and I win. There you go. I had trolls had a decent round of combat, and your skeletons are dead. Get that shit off my table. So that's my thought on the skeletons. I will say, however, the ghouls got a little bit of love, and I do like that. They did get a necessary nerve bump. They went from being 8-10 to 9-11 on the troop, and they didn't move up they only moved up 5 points for that. So them making a conscious decision that's actually somewhat good proves to me that they kind of know what they're doing, but they're being selective. They're being very selective. And when the 4 people have the Toron Raw about the rules and everything, I mean, they're being somewhat selective. I do like the regiment now at 110 points. You're getting a 13-15, and it's got 15 attacks. The troop has 12 attacks. So this is very viable chaff. This is something that isn't shambling. This is something that moves. They've got the cannibal special rule, and they've got the wild charge special rule. And the horde, at 180, I think it should be more like 160. That's just me, because, you do have the 30 attacks. And that's something that you can improve on with the Bane Champ. That's nothing to shake a stick at. You might come up with a little bit of extra oomph for your money there. So, the ghouls, they got better. Wraiths, don't know what a lot of these keywords are going to do yet. So whatever they have planned, we'll see. And then I might be redoing the review, because all of this shit makes sense. Wraiths, the regiment lost 15 points, which is good. They are threatening at defense 6. It's one viable option. 185 points for a unit with fly. They gave it Strider. That again. Oh, and it has nimble. And nimble is something that they're so fucking stingy about. It just explodes my brain every single time. Well, that unit's got nimble. Do you know how overpowered nimble is? Alright, this unit still has shambling, but it gained Strider. It got Strider for nothing. And it went down in points. Nerve 16 Fearless, 12 attacks. Again, this is one of those finesse things that I like, but it's something that you have to float over a unit, turn them around. So you're gonna move your 5 in, you're gonna move, turn around, and you're gonna line these guys up on a flank, and now you've got 24 attacks or 20 attacks on the side, hoping to come up with something with that crushing 1. Because you surged them in. Not bad. I do like... It's basically... They lowered the points cost, and they're going to give it free Strider. It's again, them making a decision where it's just like, here, you get a free rule for nothing, and there you go. Next is the mummies. Mummies went up in points, of course. They went from 170, 180. They gained nothing for that. I feel that the mummies need 15 attacks base at 150 at 100 and at 180 points. 15 attacks, not going to make that big of a difference in my opinion unless you roll lucky, you know, and you're going to be making a lot more of that crushing 2 stick. They still have regen 5, which exploded my brain because usually anything that's good in a list that's reliable, they've nerfed. Again, you don't get war drums with the what do you call it? Trolls in an orc army anymore. So there's no 17, 19 trolls lurking out there that, you know, that's broken, you can't do that. There's none of that. So, mummies, still very viable, still really easy to keep alive. If you have a decent regen, you got to lich back in these guys up. They're going to be around. You're going to have to devote resources to kill these things. So that's always a viable option, not to mention that there is some more finesse play that goes by having a gore bite next to them or something, you know, Cloak of Death, and then that thing's helping out with its D6 plus 6 attacks and everything, so, I don't know. You know, just three regiments of those is a pretty solid line, and then you can back them up with vampiric infantry troops or something like that, and make that line very threatening, and then try to hem things onto that line, you know. So you do have some good vitality with the mummies, and I still think that they're overcosted. And if you're going to raise the costs, give them something for those point costs. Again, you consciously lower the costs on siege breakers, make the defense better. You take their thunderous away. Wow, they still got big shield. Wow. Okay, yeah, and they got cheaper. Yeah, somebody's making some decisions up there. But whatever, now we come down to the remnants. Remnant infantry. They did get cheaper, but they lost the ability to take crushing strength 1 and drop their defense by 1. I really think that let's see here. At 125 points for nerve 17, that's pretty good, but you're not, again, that's like, there's some missed potential there. All you have is Revenant, Skeleton, and you can bring giant rats. At 17 Fearless, this isn't bad, but I really think that they need to be crushing 1 at 125 points. But then you're going to sit there and tell me, well, they're going to be crushing 1. They need to be 135 points. They still hit on 4s. They're not Foot Knights. Just to reiterate that, they still hit on 4s, and they're not Foot Knights. They're not hitting on 3s. So crushing strength 1. Because that's what the Undead need, in my opinion, is one unit that's cheap, that has that crushing strength that you can build on. So it's like, why would I take two? I mean, in a 2,000 point list or a 1995 points, I see these being there. 2 of those regiments being there is a pool of wounds that you have to get to go away, but again, they don't have damage output. They don't have that damage output capability. Whereas if they had the ability to mark you in close combat, like I said, every time they roll 12 attacks, and let's say they do get 4 6s, they get to make 4 more attacks, and then lo and behold, you actually do 8 damage or something on a flank charge or something, which you need to do. When you have 24 attacks, you need at least 8 of those to stick onto your opponent to break your enemy. You know, so you have an average defense 5. You have a subpar below average defense 5 unit. They're not. I mean, they need the crushing strength 1 and the defense 5. Just give them that. They're going to be good to go all the time, and then you would have some more solid things to build off of. Because a lot of the problem is you don't have a lot of crushing in this army, and the crushing you do have is highly specialized. Again, you have so many options, and a lot of it's highly specialized, and that's where you're putting your points, and that creates predictability to an extent. So, I think I've covered basically all the infantry. Not happy about the zombie nerf. Not happy about the defense 2. Revenants, they need crushing 1. Skeleton spearmen, they lost that thing that made them undead. They lost that nerf point, so 22. And they didn't get any cheaper, I believe. So it's like, again, this is a conscious decision. You're paying that premium on phalanx. Yeah, they're still 175 points. And, oh, well, you know, if you can line them up on cavalry, there you go. And to some cavalry, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter because, again, you might be -1 to hit, but you were melee 3 anyway, and if you have a decent roll, you're still going to stick all of those wounds onto the enemy. And if you're crushing strength 1, all you need is 3s. 4s and 3s isn't bad. And that's why in my goblins you see a lot of trolls there, because I want my numbers to go higher. Or in my abyssal dwarves, 4s and 3s most of the time for defense 5 characteristics, because that's really good. The crushing strength 2 with the rocks is reliable. And with a lot of the infantry choices, you don't have the reliability. So we're going to move on to the next page of the army here. And this is, the Soul Reaver Infantry. So this regiment right here is a very conscious decision. At 250 points, it's a combat horse. It's a workhorse of your army, but again, it's one of those choices, and this is where the undead really get hard for a new player, is that you're half in with one decision, half out with another decision. Because there are units that require support characters. There are units that require support characters, and then there are units like the vampires, the werewolves, and what do you call it? The zombie dragon and everything, or characters themselves on monstrous mounts that do not require support. So that's the problem. If I've got a bunch of shambling zombies not too far away from there's going to be a necromancer. Whereas with these guys, I could put a 50-point banner next to them, and I'm good to go for inspiring and everything. And hopefully I can land charges with them and destroy my enemy. There's still crushing strength 2, knock on wood, but I really think that for the points cost, the nerve on these guys should be higher. I was thinking for the regiment, 16-18, and then 12-14, because it's not going to make a huge world of difference, but again, it's a hyper-specialized choice. They're pewter miniatures. You're paying a lot of money for them, and that's really what it comes down to, is that, oh, look, I brought my vampiric infantry. I brought my badasses. And if you're a new player, you might only have one unit of badasses, and an experienced player kills your badasses. And that's kind of the takeaway right there, is that they can kill your badass unit with relative ease. And at the points cost already, 2 units is 500 points. In a 2,000 point game, that's a quarter of your army sunk into vampiric infantry. So you don't have a lot of leeway. Again, this is a unit that doesn't require a support choice. It does move 6, but again, you're not nimble, but it's just one of those instances where I think that they're being stingy, and you again, like I said, the army's 1 foot in the water, 1 foot out of the water. You literally walk down to the second step of a swimming pool with this army, because it's half shambling, half not shambling, So when I think about these guys, I like them. I wouldn't mind having an extra unit of vampiric infantry myself, and again, there are a lot of people who will make an army for a specific purpose, to do a specific tournament, and then you have a bunch of idiots on Facebook talking about what's good, what do I take for undead. Now, this is what I did say for my friend who is starting Undead. My friend Dylan, he's starting Undead, and I said, this is an army that's very hard for beginners to play because they're half in, half out again. So I told him, bring 3 regiments of Soul Reaver cavalry. Screen those guys with your werewolves, and we'll get to them in a second. Screen them with your werewolves and your Lycani, and try to annihilate and eviscerate one portion of the army, of the enemy army, before they can do anything about it. And then in the 2250 game, bring a vampire on a dragon. Bring that threat. And just try to eviscerate one of them. Make them choose what's going to happen. Because I can block the movement here, I can block the movement there. I've got the nimble to do it by bringing werewolves and things like Lycanus. And so, you can come in and smash. This is one of those armies that can be totally uniquely offensive in its own way. And If I'm at a tournament and somebody asks me a question about like, well, what would I bet on? You know, I'm gonna bet on the player that has an aggressive list and somebody who's a little bit more seasoned. Like Jerry had a very aggressive list last time I played him at Adepticon. It moved really well, it shot really well, and it fought very well. It did all three of those things. But if you can do two of the three things very, very well, and you're aggressive and you know how to play, I'm betting my money on that person just at first glance. So vampires are good. I think they need to be a little tougher. The leech life too, nah. But we come down to the cavalry. They are no longer. I think the Soul Reaver cavalry was Thunderous Charge 2. They lost Thunderous Charge 2. They are now Thunderous 1, which I think is a load of bullshit. They still... Oh, and they lost the Defense 6. So again, this is a conscientious decision to nerf them. I think Defense 6 would have stuck really well with the 15-17. Oh, but they were too... That one unit was too hard to kill. But, you know, then again, I go to Ogre Siege Breakers, and they got better and cheaper. So it's, again, a conscientious decision made by a bunch of dumbasses to, balance everything. What about the competitive scene? What about the over-the-head barrel move is unblockable on Wake Up, and it has plus frames? And you know what I say about the competitive scene? Fuck them all. They're too busy drinking their gamer fuel. So, like the Vampiric Cavalry, bring 3 regiments of them. Plus, with that, it'll teach you how to play a lot faster. They don't need that support character to help them move around the table. Again, it's a clean line between those that need the Necromancer and the Lich slaying around and those that don't. And you're kind of halfway on some weird level, you know. So now we get to one of my favorite units, and it's the Werewolves! And they went up in points. Oh, wait a minute. A regiment went down 5 whole points. Wow. 5 whole points on the regiment. The fuck are you thinking? Werewolves is one of those units that need to be crushing strength 2. They need to be crushing strength 2 if you're going to make them this fucking expensive. You are paying the premium on the one melee 3 unit that they see fit to give you, the other melee 3 unit that they see fit to give you, but crushing strength 1 isn't cutting the mustard, and it's expensive as all hell to put a support character with these guys to get that rider up there. This is where the game really falls short. I don't know why, with a standard bearer, with your one little shitty standard bearer that they give you, he's 50 points and it costs 25 to put him on a fucking horse. So I'm out 75 points now. To put him on a fucking horse. To give him Bane Chant so that I can have that extra power on my charges. I am now out 100 fucking points for one character just for 2 units that total, let's see here, what is it? I don't have it written down. Hold on. I'm at 610 just for that, and if I buy a horde, the +1 to strength thing, oh god, new book, Brew of Strength, it's 40 points. It's 40 extra points. So I'm at 650 points for 2 fucking units. And, that fucking hurts, doesn't it? 2 fucking units, I'm at 650 points just to support it. When they should already just have the Crushing Strength 2. You're paying the premium for this Melee 3 and Nimble. You got Leech Life 1, but again, I really think that, Crushing Strength 2 unit at 255, well, they have that. It's the Wraith, and we'll get to that in a second. And again, it's just one of those things where it's never clear cut. Because Werewolves don't have Crushing Strength 2, and I painted up 2 regiments of these guys. I like the models. Some people don't like the models. Some people say they look like rat ogres. They're just naked people with hair. I don't know. I like them. They're okay models. I can't wait to see what they do on the next one. I think they need more fur, personally. I think if they were just covered in fur instead of patches of fur, these are clearly the Werewolves of Chernobyl. Let's just call it that. You can't do an all werewolf army. You can, but it's not going to be that much good. Just crushing strength 1 is not enough. And bringing the support characters again is the one crippling aspect to Undead. So the Death Pack. It's a swarm, it's got nimble, stealthy, vicious, and it's got 12 attacks. I mean, really? Really? You gave all that love to that one little unit just so the Undead could have decent chaff, yet this is an army divided still. So, don't know how good that's going to be, but that's a pretty awesome unit. I mean, you know, Death Pack, that's a pretty conscious decision. That's pretty cheap for all the fucking special rules that it got, yet Remnants can't have Crushing Strength 1, and Werewolves can't have Crushing Strength 2. You know, I want the Werewolf army, you know, that should be a viable option. If you take all Werewolves, the army rules should be, you just get the additional Crushing Strength 1. You know, I mean, that isn't that broken, and you can stop them. I mean, 15-17 isn't that hard, you know, it's just one army that comes across the table, and you know what it's going to do. Once you fought it 2 or 3 times, you're going to figure out a way to counter it anyway. But I digress. Seems like the people do not like werewolves, and they just keep adding points onto them, and they're just a very average hitting unit. You can't line them up against defense 5 shit. And again, it costs 610 points to do that. Whereas with vampire cavalry, it's 575 points to line them up on that with the one inspiring source, because you have to make investments in this army. You know, if I've got 2 units, there's got to be an inspiring source nearby. You need at least a minimum of 2 inspiring sources, and this is why necromancers, in my opinion, need to have that rule. You know, and you can call it whatever it is. You know, it's just they need it, they don't have it, and it's bullshit. Because again, you're divided down the line. I think that the points cost on the horde for the werewolves, 230 for what they are. Take it or leave it. That isn't that bad at 230 points. And that would just make them absolutely more usable, because again, without that support character, without that Bane chant, you can't take on defense 5 units with these things. They're just fast. And good luck lining these guys up on a flank charge or something, because if I deploy one horde of werewolves on one side of the table, everybody's army's going over there for some reason. Oh, look at that. There are 6 drops on that one side because I placed some werewolves there. Oh my god. They're that afraid of the werewolves. Everybody's army's going over there. I've got two regiments of chariots to deal with those werewolves. I win. You know, and so they're in a limbo space, and I don't like that's where werewolves ended up. Did I mention I like the zombie trolls? They're kind of next up on the list. They've got the defense 5. They can get the vicious aura from the necromancer. Not a bad place to be. And then you finally come to the whites. These guys right here, the one unit that I have, there are some people, again, who will paint like X amount of miniatures to go to a tournament. I am not one of those people. I make lists based on what I have collected over the years. That's why all my shit's painted, you know? I mean, that's just common fucking sense. That you don't, I mean, and one of the smartest things you can do, if I had to start again in Kings of War, like if I lost all my armies tomorrow, I would just pick one army and build a 5,000 point army of that one thing, so that I have tons of options and tons of viability. But the whites lost nimble, they lost the 20-inch movement, they fly 14 inches now, and they're 260 points. I see that at like 240 for what they do, because they're no longer crushing strength 3. When they were crushing strength 3 to me means that you get to keep damage no matter what. Oh, it's going to be 2s. Most of the time it's going to be 2s. Unless I'm fighting defense 6, it's going to be 2s. That's good news bears. You know, and now that they're just crushing strength 2, I mean, they kind of lost that oomph that they needed, you know, so what they could have done was just make them nerve 18, and that's kind of by and large where they need to be. Had so many fucking technical difficulties, my coffee's cold. Okay, so After whites, we come down to the catapults. Maybe. They have 2 attacks apiece now. They've gone down 5 points. I think it should be 180 for 2, not 190. Just drop it 10 points. They're like, oh, we gotta watch those point costs on the catapults, everyone. Broken shit's about to go down. It's all about to go down. I think in the zombie army, they'll do okay. They'll do okay. You'll be able to soften up a target, and that could tip the balance on a nerve test. And as you all know, I have trouble tipping that balance on the nerve test. For the zombie trolls or something like that, or the werewolves, they could benefit from a special rule like brutal on those 2 units, because they just need something. Being fast and hitting on 3s and having the crushing strength 1 is not enough. These guys really have like one purpose, and that purpose is I'm going to run them into a unit of goblins, and I'm gonna Bane chant, or I'm gonna run them into a defense. I'm gonna run them into medium or light infantry, because the moment I meet anything heavy with these guys, I might as well just fling them against the wall. And let's see here. Am I at the end of my notes? Yep, I'm at the end of my notes. We went down to Gore Blight. I do like Cloak of Death. Again, that's a synergy you can build on. It's something that works. It's something that's proven to work. And that's where we're at. We're going to hurry up and gloss over the characters here. Is the Ghoulgast, Individual, Cannibal, Wild Charge D3, Leech Life. Now, this is the one character that you have if you want to kind of do like a ghoul army, your Flesh Eater's Court, if you will. Again, ghouls did get the love. They got the Wild Charge D3. And again, at 70 points, 2 troops of ghouls is really good chaff. Not to mention, they can pick up your objectives. They can, they can get to where they need to be. You can maneuver with that 6 inches very well, because it's better than 5s. And again, it's another decision where they're half in, half out. Do you make an army that does not rely on support characters to move around? Or do you go halfway, have some support characters moving the army that you do need, moving the elements of your army around that you do need to have? Or do you just say, fuck it all, I'm not going to bring any shambling units at all, no necromancer, save the points, and go hyper offensive? You've got that. You've got those 3 tiers. So Ghoulgast, pretty cool character. Leech Life 2, Cannibal, Inspiring Individual, and Crushing Strength 1. He's got 6 attacks. He's got 6 attacks, and he's a 12-14. They want you to take this guy. They want you to take this guy. I like that. They want you to take this guy. It's just like, it's almost an auto take depending on the list that you're bringing. It really is. He's not mighty, but 6 attacks, Crushing Strength 1. This is a war. You put the scouting, you put the ability to scout on him. This thing can be your War Machine Hunter. And he is melee 3. They want you to take this guy. What is that? What item is that? Just real quick before we move off of him. Oh, that's creator. Oh yeah, you want to give him the boots of the 7 leagues. You want to give him the boots of the seven leagues so that he has the scout special rule, and that would make him 125 points. War Machine Hunter, really good. That's also 100. Anything below 150, 160 is decent chaff anyway. That's something that they've got to worry about. You can sneak that guy up and get into the backfield. That's a good option, and it's cheap. It's cheaper than like the Flying Pharaoh, who loses a defense point for having the wings. And the Pharaoh himself, I see him and then I don't see him. I'm a fan of the Pharaoh. He's right here. I'm a huge fan of him. And the problem that I have with the Cursed Pharaoh is, he's slow. He's got Surge 5. He is mighty, which I do like, and they nerfed it, and he should be 15-17. They went down to 14-16. How much did he used to cost? Cursed Pharaoh. What was it? I think he went up in points. Where is it? 145, and he's 150. Yeah, he went up 10 points, and he lost all his he lost his goodies. They nerfed him. He did get melee 3 for his trouble, so I'm not going to complain too much. The melee 3 does help. Wish he had the 6th attack. So regeneration. He's, if you want to do a mummy theme army, you can do that. You've got that with the pharaohs and everything. He's still going to be hard to get rid of, but I do like the melee 3 aspect on that, and I look at him some more. So we come to our first character after this is the Vampire Lord. Like the Vampire Lord, not a bad pickup for his 7 attacks, melee 3, crushing strength 2, duelist, inspiring, and mighty. Not bad. You put him on a horse, you give him lightning bolt. I really think you're out only, what is it? Yeah, him on a horse. And again, this is one of those things. It's 35 points to put him on a fucking horse. Fuck you and your points costs on those people. What the fuck were you thinking? 35 points? A horse should never cost more than 20 points. Let's just get that out of the way. Doesn't matter the character, a pig, a horse, or whatever shouldn't cost more than 20 points. Especially on a standard bearer, it shouldn't cost more than 10. On an undead standard bearer, it should not cost more than 10. So fuck you, I'm right in this situation, and if you don't like it, suck my white guy dick. There you go. What do you call it? Yeah, 220 points to put him on a mount and give him lightning bolt. Plus he can ride around, use that to soften up some targets. Pretty good. And he's an offensive character. You can get him into a combat. It's going to give you a couple extra wounds, and you're going to do okay. And against individuals, I forgot what duelist does, but he's gonna be a solid choice. Again, if you want to go the hyper specialized route and stuff, this is one way to do it. You bring the vampire on the horse there. Vampire Lord on a dragon, huge fan. I do like he's got Icy Breath 10, whatever that does. Haven't had time to read this entire book yet because, I never get away from that table if they let me out. So, Crushing Strength 3, Fly, Inspiring, and it's got the Nimble, 350 points, 1719, Standard Dragon. If you get heal next to this guy or something, that's pretty darn good. You can take heal on him for 15 points, but just a solid choice. And this is something on the other side of the field that will make them think twice. They've got to deal with it. It's like the 2 regiments of mummies. They've got to devote the resources to kill it. Remnant King, dash 14, 25 points to put him on a horse. And you have to pay for the paying 10 points for Surge 5, not bad. I'll take it. I've used them before. He's just that inspiring buff. He's got the Surge, and then you put the Loot of Insatiable Darkness on him, and he's got that versatility. Again, he's not mighty, but he's playing that support role again. And it's just a little bit tough, and he's only got 3 attacks now, so they did nerf him up. I think the old Revenant King was way better. Let's see. Revenant King used to have 5 attacks, defense 5, injury. They should have just left him at the 120. And then what was it in the old book? It was 20 points for the horse, not 25 points, I am going to complain about the 5 points because, again, it's a very hard army to play. Revenant King on a great undead burrowing worm. I don't know what the burrowing worm entails. It's got the plague breath, but the burrowing worm, doesn't that mean I should be able to put this fucker up in the scout position? Shouldn't it be a hidden unit, kind of like the Scorpions in Warhammer Fantasy? Okay, so this is where my burrowing worm is going to come up. I've scouted him in. There's nothing you can do about it. It's average in melee. It did get the 12 attacks, which is good. It was lacking that. The flying one has 10 attacks, so there's a conscious decision to not make the one that flies that much better. Again, the Vampire Dragon only has 10 attacks. The Burrowing Worm, though, 12 attacks, and it's far cheaper than the one that flies. It's 30 points cheaper, and then you can give it the ranged attack with steady aim for 15. But the Vampire, again, it's And none of these are shambling, by the way. I do like the flying worm for the sake of, it's dash 19. That's really good. And then you can give it the steady aim attack. And it's really good there. So you come down to the Lich King. I'm a fan of the Lich King. This guy's a mover. He's a mover, controller, shaker. He's got the Bane Chant 3. If you want to pay 30 points for that, which I think is completely bogus and overcosted. Just to get that one little point of strength on your guys there, you got to pay 30 points. Can I interest you in a butt fucking?
Can I interest you in a butt fucking?
No, can I interest you in one? Oh, okay. Let's see. He can take the Drain Life 7, heal 6 for 40 points. Again, it's one of those things that you park next to the mummies, and it's like, I'm going to go heal 6. Let's see. I got some mummies that got beaten up, so I've got 8. Yeah, I got 8 wounds on my mummies. Here's their regen step. Let's see. Bam! I've taken 2. Now I'm going to take these 6 dice, and I'm going to go heal 6. And I've got the Conjurer staff, so I didn't get an extra one, but I did just go down to 2 wounds again. This can keep your mummies alive. This is why they have to... And this is one of those synergies that has always worked, and they have to devote the energy and resources and time into killing, because it won't go down like a bitch. And it's just one of those things that works, but it still costs... It's still very points overcosted to do it, Lich... The average Lich runs about, let's see here, 255 points with all of those things, with the heal, the Bane Chant. He's taking Surge for free. You're going to pay the points for the heal. You do not want to swap that out. You need the Surge. The Surge 10 is still good. He did go down from Surge 12, so, it's also, again, if you have an army that moves really well and fights very well and shoots very well, it's all 3 of those things. It's a very, very tough list to beat. But a lot of things in the classic Undead range only do 2 of those things very well in a tournament setting. 2 of those things very well. Because you don't have Undead Enslaved Guardians. You can bring them as allies, but you don't have them. And, being able to shoot that large bow, pretty darn good. So... That's the Lich, mover and a shaker. The Necromancer did go down in points. He's 10-12. He's got 1 attack. It's 25 points to put him on a horse, and you can't give him the zombie aura if he's mounted. Again, don't get me started on that. The Vicious on the zombies is good, but I think that the nerfing they just took, they should have had the Vicious anyway, and then the aura should have given them Crushing Strength 1, so that they can stick the damage to your sorry ass before they die, because at Defense 2, you will go down relatively quickly. It's like, here, I got all these cool hits, let's see how many of them died, and of that, I only missed once. Very easy to stick damage onto Defense 2. Let's see here, they got the Drain Life, they got the Weakness, all of that stuff. An average Necromancer will run you anywhere from 90 to 130 points if you want him to be inspiring, but that's something that they should have had. And, they're going to sit there and say, well, that should be a 150-point character every time, Fuck you. Just, it's one of those things that really hurts the Undead, and it's also one of those things that isn't good for new players. So, come down, just after the Cursed Pharaoh, we got the Undead Standard Bearer, 75 points to put him on a horse. Again, it's one of those support characters that is vital to the army's survival, and it's just, I don't know how you say it, it's just, you gotta have the inspiring in this army. An average army at 2,000 points with 11 to 12 drops needs 3 sources of inspiring. Very hard to get it, and it's something that's, you can do with your werewolves because you brought the Lycanus or something, but you need to have it somewhere. You need that 6-inch bubble, that 6-inch bubble, and that 6-inch bubble. Jarvis, they want you to bring this guy. They want you, okay? They want you to bring this guy, this turban-wearing raghead Mothra, all day, every day. You do switch your alliance to good, but they want you to bring him. This is the example of a character who got all of that fucking love. And they can't give the Necromancer inspiring. This is a conscientious choice. There's a reason he is not 170 points. I look at everything that this motherfucker brings to the table. It's just hilarious. I'm just going to go over the spells that he knows, okay? The spells that he knows. This guy is a Necromancer on steroids. He's Surge 8, Lightning Bolt 3, Heal 3, Bane Chant 2. He's everything that you want in a girl. He's like, ooh, oh Sheila, you have everything I ever wanted in a girl. This motherfucker's got 12-14 nerf, and he's very inspiring. Very inspiring. He's 140 points. They want you to bring this guy. It's like the Noble Dead. He does change it to a good army, and then he adds 6 inches of range to the Bane Chant, Heal, and Lightning Bolts and Surge spells. So it's like, oh, I have 18-inch range on my spells now, people. This guy, very conscientious decision to make him good. Like, really good. This is, I mean, if he's backed up by other spellcasters in a zombie army, you've got that synergy, you're sitting there. For me, because I'm a purist, I'm never going to bring Jarvis because undead are supposed to be evil. Otherwise, you can't say, we've broken through the castle of Oz. You can't do that shit. You know, it's supposed to be the Evil Dead. So, Jarvis, yeah, they made him really good. And, you know, it's an example of when they make decisions that explode my brain. You know, we're going to make this guy so good, you're not going to not want to take him, you know. And they made him really good. You know, he's the Necromancer he's Swartz a Necromancer, you know. So, and he does all this at half the cost of a Lich. Half the cost minus 5 points of a Lich. It's really good. So, Jarvis, all day, every day. You can't take any named characters with him. And then we come to Lady Alona. Let's just, the Promise of Love Eternal. You're -1 to hit her in melee. She's defense 6. She does have 8 attacks, and she's crushing strength 3. You can't put her on a horse. She's basically a Lamian vampire. She's got Duelist, Mighty. You know, she's got Enthrall, Heal, Lightning Bolt, and Surge 3. She's got all of that stuff, but she carries a very heavy points tax at 280. You know, I liked it better when you had Ilona's Thirst Coven and everything, where you could have done an all vampiric list, and until you can theme an army that way that's going to be viable, a hyper offensive vampiric list army, I don't really see bringing her, because either the army's going to be all on foot, or she's just not going to. She is speed 7, so she will be able to keep up, but I mean, that is the key thing there. I forgot that she's, I didn't see that she's speed 7. She will be able to keep up with your army, but you'll be delivering her next turn. You know, again, heal next to vampires. There is a synergy there amongst some of the vampires that do have heal and everything, but again, if your dragon's fighting, he's mostly disordered. And it doesn't make sense to have a 280 point combat engine like her backing up vampires in close combat. The one turn that she does move, she casts heal on your guys, but that next turn you have to deliver her, because if you don't break what you just did, let's say you hit something that's very tough and you didn't break it with vampires, you got to put her in and you got to make sure that that's gone, because you might not have another turn to stick around, because you're going to be very few in number. And so that's her. And then you got Morgoth the Faceless. I think he went down. He's got Bane Chant 3, Drain Life 9, Mind Fog, and Surge. He's very inspiring. He's got Regen 5, Unholy Levitation. He can move at the double and make range attacks as if he had advanced. He's got Unholy Levitation. So this guy's he's your controller. He's a super lich. He's a mover and a shaker. He's got the one problem I have is that he can't have his personal unit of zombies anymore, which is the Touch of Darkness, I think. Yeah, he used to be able to make one unit have the regeneration special rule, and having regeneration on a legion of zombies, I guess, was just too broken. But again, you're dealing with a list that's hyper specialized and has many nuances, and it just puts you one way, this way, or that way. You've got so many directions you can go with the undead. It's overall, I have to give the army a 3 out of 5. Because again, new players aren't going to be able to pick this up and run with it immediately against any seasoned player. If you're a new player, you're not going to be able to pick these guys up and run with it immediately. Now now I'm going to come to one of my final lists here. Again, I don't understand finesse play. I want to be a giant. I want to slap you like a bitch. That's just my persona, my play style. That's why I have 4 units of rocks in my Abyssal Dwarves. So I have the 1 regiment Soul Cavalry and the Soul Reaper Cavalry, and they've got the Potion of Caterpillar. They're coming in at 270. This is kind of the list that I wrote for my friend to use. So because he asked me what he should buy, and I said start with this. Start with this one direction until you start to figure out what the rest of your army does. Another regiment, the Soul Reaper Cavalry, 270 points. These guys are elite. I did think about bringing the Nimble potion on one of these things, but when you start to go hyper specialized, you run out of points very quickly. Plus, you're going to have all the Nimble in this list that you need from your werewolves. So hopefully that balances it out. Next thing you're going to take is another unit of Soul Reaper Cavalry. So you're taking 3 regiments of those motherfuckers. One of them's elite, one of them's going to hit very hard, and you've got a lot of that Crushing Strength 1 and Thunderous 1. Not to mention you have a regiment of werewolves and a regiment of werewolves. You've got a troop of ghouls and a troop of ghouls. Now let me explain the 2 troops of ghouls in this army. You have something that can move up to 12 inches, sneak onto an objective-based game. You need something that the enemy isn't going to worry about. You're going to deploy these guys either behind your army or in front of your army somewhere, and they're going to go a single direction, and they're going to have a purpose to pick up objectives. Like, oh look, he's got a small army just like me, and he's deployed over here on this one side of the table, and I have one more drop than him. I have one more drop than him. Okay. My ghouls are going over here in an loot scenario. That's going to be very useful because you're going to be able to score that point and play to the objective a lot easier. The next thing you're going to take is let's see, what else? A vampire on an undead Pegasus. He's going to have Lightning Bolt 3 and he's going to be about 235. So, he's going to fly around. He's going to lend his aid to whoever needs it. This is something, again, that you do not want on your flank because he's going to deliver I think he can deliver, he can deliver 14 attacks if he gets on your flanks, 21 if he gets on your rear. That guy flying around, not to mention popping off the lightning bolt, that can kind of tip the difference. If you're able to put 3 wounds on before you make contact with something or keep the pressure on something, just a little bit, that will help. Soften something up. Maybe you get lucky, you put 2 wounds on something, and that's the difference on that roll after a close combat. Because you are going to have 1 turn of shooting. This guy flying around with the lightning bolt, really decent. The next thing you're going to have is another vampire on a horse. And he's got the lightning bolt as well. He's coming in at 220, and I think that really works simply because, again, he's a combat engine, he's mighty, he's got duelists. He's going to be able to, that's just something else that they have to worry about in conjunction with, I'm okay sending a 12 attack troop in with a vampire to go and deal with a regiment of infantry or something, or to go and deal extra damage, or to hold something up for a turn. Now again, you've got your werewolves, they're going to be blocking the movement of faster troops so that you can get up, you can deliver your charge, you can eviscerate a quarter of his army, turn to the side, and get ready for the countercharge. And then werewolves, they're not really slouches, but you know what they're going to be doing. And then this is the caveat on this list. You're going to bring 2 Lycanus. The reason for that is one of them's going to have the blade slashing. He's going to be 155 points. The other one's going to be 150. You got 2 things with nimble movement that can come in and help in close combat. in the later turns. Plus, you might be able to put one of these on an objective very early or get one into the backfield very early. You got a lot of fast elements in this. This is a very melee-heavy army, and you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You got the average in 2,000 points of 11 drops. And that's very average. Sometimes you don't really have more than 12 drops in an undead army. But in a hyper-specialized army like I would run, I just want to smash your face off. That's it. I want to make you... Even if you win the objective and you win the game that way, I want to make you feel it. I want to make you feel it. So, again, there are a lot of nuances in this army. When I look at reviewing an army, I always look at the ease of playability to an illiterate of this game. The ease of playability to an illiterate of this game. I don't really give the competitive scene much thought when I'm trying to teach someone how to use their army or get someone excited about the game. Because, if you're just starting tournament play, it's way the hell at the other end of the football field. It's way the hell at the other end of the football field, and I don't want a new person to think about that too much, so much as I want him to come into the system and participate, which is the most important thing. In any case, YouTube has many features you can use to interact with me. You can like the video, dislike the video, comment, or subscribe. But before you go, I want to tell you about DunlopGames.net, which is a website that sells Kings of War products and everything like that. And if you're on the western side of the United States, that's really handy because now you don't have to order something that might come from Ohio, North Dakota, Wisconsin, or New York, or Pennsylvania. It's on this side of it's on my side of the country in the west, where you can get a little bit faster and you don't have to wait on it. So go over to DunlopGames.net. Plenty of good deals, plenty of miniatures to buy. I highly recommend it. Going to be getting some stuff there pretty soon, especially if Goblins get a re-release of figures. I'm going to be all over that like white on rice. Until I see you again, stay metal and keep playing your Undead.
Even you, puppy dog. Hey, you need to grow a sack!